And I'll turn it over to Craig to do the introductions on our presentation from the Wellbeing Plan.
Oh.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Here from OSPSB.
Yeah. I don't know.
Sorry, we just got to chat here, but good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. Sarah, thank you for coming out this morning, and Barb, thank you as well. We asked you to come and do a quick presentation on the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan. I know it's been a lot of work, and the steering committee has done a great job. And we've come up with a plan now that's ready to be presented. It was approved at the Grey County Council and the Bruce County Council, and the draft was approved. And now it's coming to all the municipalities, now police services boards that want a presentation. And I spoke to the chair, and he asked if you could present this morning. So without anything else, Sarah, Barb, I'll turn it over to you.
That's great, Craig. And did you have a presentation that could be shared, or did you want me to share?
Yeah, Chris will arrange that so you can share. He'll give you a sharing for the.
You can just click share screen and just share your
Okay.
presentation, and everyone should be able to see it.
I'll just have to pull it up. Just a little slow to load. 1 second.
No problem.
Good old country internet here. Okay. Oh, it says it's disabled by the host.
Who wants to present? Is it Barb or Sarah?
Sarah. Sarah, yep.
I'm just going to make you the host temporarily and see if that allows you to present.
Okay, great. Perfect. That seems to be working. Let me know if it comes up for you.
Yeah. You're good, Sarah.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much for having me present to you. Perfect. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. So thank you for inviting us. As Craig said, we are being. Okay, yeah. There you go. Is that better?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Use some of the details from the community safety and wellbeing planning process from municipalities of Bruce and Grey that we've been for, which Owenstown Police Board has been. So I'm sure you've heard of the past year about we're engaged in community legislated under the Police Services Act. Was January of 2019. 16 lowers a payment to complete one shared plan. At this point in time, we have a lot of, which is, as you know, the framework talks about 4 different realms of intervention. So from incident response to prevention and social development. And as you can see from the framework diagram, we really want to be looking at the upstream interventions, the larger rings of the framework, so that we're focused on promoting and maintaining community safety and well-being, and proactively reducing identified risks and implementing those evidence-based programs or policies that help people today end up down a path where they're into having major or in having interactions with their crime victim or as a perpetrating police. So under the legislation we must have for this planning process, we have 72 partners across the region at this table, and it's really exciting because this have a collective planning process and one shared, as I said, we've seen partners from municipalities, 16 localities. We have 8 police service board at the table. From youth justice. We have all table and numerous organizations from health, community, mental health, and social services. And we also did the commission
Sarah, we're just having some
already
difficulty
exists. So
hearing
region
you.
community alcohol strategy. Okay.
Are you able to dial in
might
by
be my
phone and just
internet.
mute your-
Hang on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep. Yeah, I can try to do that. Hang on.
If you could just mute your microphone and just dial in with the Zoom dial-in number, it'll be able to hear you a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stop sharing for a minute so I can see all of my, all of my Sorry, where is the dial-in information? I can't see it now.
It should be in the invitation, the meeting invitation that you received with the Zoom link. It should have a dial-in number there as well.
Sure. Hang on one second. I'm sorry, it doesn't seem to be working. Barb, would you be able to present for me? I'm sorry.
I think you can even do your voiceover as long as someone else presents. It's just I think you trying to do both is causing the issue.
Okay, alrighty. So I'll turn my video off too for my camera so you don't worry about seeing me. Maybe that'll help with the bandwidth. Okay.
Alrighty, so let me try that now. See if we can get back to this. Alrighty, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, much better.
Okay, that's better. All right, perfect. I'll keep my video off then. So as you can see on this slide, which I hope you're seeing, we do have 72 partners at the table. And as I said, this is really important for us as we ensure that we're streamlining the interventions in all 4 areas of the framework, and that we're making sure that we have a collective voice as we move forward with planning. And so wanted to highlight in the planning process that we engaged in throughout this entire year, we were lucky enough to really start right off the bat, really early on. And it really helped that we had the financial commitment from the municipalities so that we would have a coordinator. And we were able to actually get our website launched and a community engagement survey launched on February 1st of this year. And that survey ran for 7 weeks until March 22nd. So we got in just about the time that the restrictions from COVID were starting to shut down group meetings. And we were really happy with the engagement because we had almost 2,000 participants from across Bruce and Grey. And it was actually very well distributed municipality. And just to give you a context, there are planning groups that have gone before us, larger regional municipalities that have done this planning, had significantly less participation when they have significantly greater populations of people to plan for. So we were really excited about this. We were also very well connected over the course of the last year and continue to be connected with the Canadian Municipal Network on Crime Prevention and also the Ontario Municipal Coordinators for Planning in Ontario. And I have stayed connected with that, as have Barb and Christine, to ensure that we're keeping up to date on the planning processes from other regions. So this is the timeline that we've been undergoing for the last year. We did have to make a few adjustments related to the pandemic and its impact on organizations and on residents of our communities. Of course, with restrictions in place, we weren't able to do further face-to-face engagement, but we have kept on track with regards to our planning process. And you can see here now we're in November and December, and we are planning. We're getting the plan approved with the lower tier municipality sustainability for the coming year. Talk about in just a couple minutes. So our model, this is the model that's driven our planning work. It hasn't really changed that much over this past year, but the highlight now is that we're moving into action. And this is where we'll be looking at the action tables that we will either identify or will create if there is a gap in our area in order to dive into the identified homes so that we can create really detailed action plans and begin to implement those actions and look at outcomes. And that will be supported, of course, by the coordinator, our steering committee, our advisory committee, and the participating organizations in this plan. So of course, everybody wants to know what are the priority areas for action. And for the 72 partners to us, we originally said we'd look at 3 regional priorities for this big plan. But when we dove into the information from residents and into our local data, we really realized that we needed to keep the top 5 in because they are so intertwined that we really can't without tackling. Area 1 came up as addiction and substance use. And some of the concerns that we'll be looking at and working to take action regarding and supporting groups who are already taking action on is that regular heavy drinking continues to be a known issue in our community, with self-reported use in Bruce and Grey tracking higher than Ontario. And that is a historical situation that we continue to need to trend. We're also seeing that in relation to the alcohol use, emergency department visits show over half are linked to alcohol. And in addition to that, now we've also seen a 2.5 to 3 times increase for opioid-related visits. Alcohol is increasing by self-report, and this is not necessarily reflected in some of our local police stats of the legalization of cannabis in 2018. So we don't have good trends at this point in time, but in addition, we know that addiction and substance use is the cause of increasing hospitalization and death. Priority number 2, mental health, and our indicators and concerns show that self-rated mental health continues to be a problem for approximately 20%, and 15% report they are seeking help for mental health issues. We know that more than 30% of grades 7 to 12 students are experiencing moderate to severe psychological distress, and a third of those still don't know who to turn to when they want to talk to someone. We know that both EMS and police services in the region have seen increases in calls related to mental health concerns, and this trend is reflected also in the calls to 211, where mental health concerns are on the rise. And we know that self-harm emergency department visit rates have tripled among young females locally, and that Bruce and Grey males aged 25 to 44 years continue to have higher hospitalizations and death by suicide than the rest of Ontario. From a crime prevention perspective, our OPP detachments and our 4 local police services and have certainly gathered call information from each of with data collection practices. We're trying to collate that data. But what we do know is that criminal court cases show that trends are increasing over time for most offenses. There was a 17 to 27% increase for most offenses between 2017 and 2019. And although assault injuries are comparable to Ontario rates, we know that in Bruce and Grey, the rate of emergency department visits due to assault is higher than the Ontario rate. And so that's something we'll need to dive into as in respect of what's causing that. Is that that the assaults are more serious, or that people are simply more willing to come to the emergency department? Are we doing something well? So that's more information that we have to dive into as we begin to look at crime prevention. Priority risk area 4 is housing and homelessness. And some of the key information here that we need to work on and keep in mind is that we have more owned dwellings and far fewer rental dwellings in our area. And we know that a few in Southgate do have 15% of homeowners, most than off to that leaves them only one day from homelessness. Are increasing, but still are lower than Ontario. But we have very low rental vacancy rates in our region. And while this is similar to Ontario, what it means is when people are underhoused or living in an unhealthy situation or can no longer afford the housing they have, there's very little. There are very little options for them to move to in this region. We also know that housing waitlists are increasing, as are calls to 211 for housing issues. And then priority risk area 5 was poverty and income. And here we're really concerned to see that approximately 20% of this is highest in Huron-Kinloss, and then followed by Chatsworth, Owen Sound, Southgate, and Erin Elderslie, and all of those are above 25% of children living in poverty. We also know that trends from various organizations are showing increasing needs for support such as Ontario Works, ODSP, the United Way Backpack Program for kids, and utility assistance and 211 calls for utility assistance and food and meals. We also know that of the percentage of people that are spending more than 30% of their income on housing, 5% in the last year had not paid their rent or mortgage on time, 18% report not paying other bills on time, and 9% reported they ate food. So these concerns, complex concerns, we see this planning process allowing us to focus on local impact, because it is planning across sector and it is coordinate responses that are systems based. This plan is designed to work already done as Bruce and Gray by action and coordination. And so we really want to ensure that those players and partners remain at the table as we move forward to action. As I said earlier about the indicator report, when we're looking at evaluating outcomes of this, we found that although some other regions, a few-year planning process, found that we really wanted this to be a foundation for how we define our actions from a data-based perspective, and also how we evaluate the impact of our actions as we move forward. So we are working on a data report, an indicator report that will be hopefully ready to present in January alongside the posting of the approved plan. And as I said, this report will facilitate outcome evaluation for our plan using locally available data. So data that is driven locally and that will act as a resource for our advisory and action tables. From a sustainability perspective for the counties and local municipalities are all working on their 2021 budgets now and have best need for resource move towards implementation of this plan. And the implementation is identical to the way the budget came together for this year, which is that all municipalities and counties would participate and would leverage a pool of funding that would allow us to continue having a coordinator to move this work forward. Our partners have talked about the number of plans that have come to be and then can't be moved forward because there's no one person to help drive the action and coordinate the work. So we know that without that resourcing, our momentum will be at risk. We also feel that by pooling the resources, again, part of the reason why all 16 of the participating municipalities decided to do one plan along with the two, is that this will help reduce duplication so that we are all working together and multiple plans across. Next steps for the planning process, council. Once the plans are approved by the lower tier councils, we will have that plan and the indicator report will be posted on county and municipal websites and on our website, the Safety and Wellbeing website. We'll have that budget confirmation and move forward with the coordinator's work. And that support will really be tied to the identification and creation of those action tables, as I said, for the priority areas of risk. And the support will be provided to enter community engagement with those tables and to the individual action plans that we need to have for each of the areas. Under the legislation of the plan with annual progress reports to the advisory committee ministry. And that is the end of the presentation. It's about 18 months in a nutshell, but happy for Barb and I to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Sarah. Barb, did you have anything you wanted to add before we go into questions?
Just want to make sure you can hear me. Can you hear me? No.
It's very quiet.
I'm going to try it again. Is that better?
A little bit, but it's very.
Okay, I'm going to do this again. How about now? Any better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. So what I would say is that unfortunately you missed a little bit of the conversation that Sarah adds to the presentation. I could, that was fading in and out, but in a nutshell, we've worked really hard to meet the original deadline. We had some momentum, and our goal, even though Soljan had given us some extension, we decided, certainly at the advisory committee, on the recommendation of the steering committee, to keep moving. We know that there are a number of reasons within our community to find ways to better coordinate solutions. We also know that there are small wins that we can be making, sharing amongst our community. And then there are the bigger things to tackle, which Sarah talked about, the infrastructure of existing tables and not duplicating. no one can do this by themselves, and nor should they. We do it really well here to collaborate. So having an infrastructure to put this phase 2 to build on the plan that Sarah has presented, I think is exciting for all of us. I think we've got some current issues happening in our community that need help, and we're looking forward to where this takes us. It's not a magic pill. It's not going to happen overnight, but we have to start somewhere. And we know those that have gone before us, like Halton Region, they are seeing really significant impacts to their community safety and well-being plans. So looking forward to some milestones and some evaluation.
Great. Thank you, Barb. So I think it's open to questions now, if anybody has any. I don't see any questions, but thank you very much for presenting, and I just want to reiterate the good work that's gone into this on behalf of all the different sectors, and certainly it comes out from the Police Services Act, or it's mandated through the Police Services Act, but certainly the police have been saying, and the message has been there for a long time, that this isn't something that we can do alone. This is something that involves an integrated approach throughout all the sectors of in all the different counties and municipalities throughout the counties. And this is a good step towards getting everybody on the same page and working together. And I think during the planning sessions that took place, it was very evident that there's a desire and a want for everybody to work together and to make some improvements and avoid, stay out the outside of the circle and go with the green and the social development pieces, and stay out of the inside and the red calls for service when the police start getting involved. And I think that's the way it has to work for everyone. So thanks for all the work that both of you have done putting this together. I know there's been a lot, and I know how many meetings I've attended, and I know that there's that you've attended that many more, and you've done a whole lot more work. So I think it's a great product, and I'm looking forward to seeing the fruits of the labor as we move forward. And some of those tables that they've set up certainly will take away from and keep people out of the criminal justice system, and I think that's the way that we have to work together moving forward. Hopefully we can address some of those social determinants of health and get people in a better position and overall everywhere in the municipality. So thanks very much. We'll let you go then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate your support, Craig. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move back to the formal part of the agenda now. And prior to today's meeting, the board met in closed session to review and discuss matters that in their opinion fell under Section 35 of the Police Services Act, and as per the Youngstown Police Services Board bylaw in Section 19.1, closed items. Moving on to approval of the agenda, and I just have one item to add, and I'll suggest we put it under other items in new business. There was a late arrival for an application from Michael Fuller to offer private transportation company. Are there any other items on the agenda? So I'd ask for approval of the agenda. Motion. Ian? Seconder? Garth? Thank you. Declaration of conflict of interest arising out of the matters. Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor? Sorry. Glasses are fogging up because of that. Oh. Declaration of conflict of interest arising out of matters on the agenda. Hearing none. And moving on to confirmation of the minutes of the last public meeting held October 28th, 2020.
Also moved.
Thank you, Mary. Seconder? Jill? Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Any business arising out of the minutes from October 28th? Hearing none. First item on correspondence received was from Georgian College. The Youngstown Police Services Board normally awards $500 for people participating in, I guess, the law enforcement course. Greg, do you have anything to add to that? Because I know you're pretty heavily involved with it?
No, I think it's, every year we've been supported their program, and although it's being done a little bit differently this year remotely, I think it's still one that, I would say, support. We work a little more closely with them. The Polar Fund was arranged to be up at Georgian College, and we've been working more with Georgian College and with the coordinator up there, so hopefully move that program forward and create some opportunities for that.
That's great. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'd call for the motion to support the request. Ian, thank you. Second, Gert. All in favor? Another correspondence received, there was a letter from the Hull Police Board. The other notable item was sincere thanks for the recovery of a stolen vehicle that citizens in Old Town had sent to the one of the sergeants here, commending them on the job that they've done. And item D, appointment for Garth Pierce as the provincial appointee, extended for another 2 months. And the reason for the extension is that the amount of paperwork that's accumulated in the Lieutenant Governor? Yes. David Onley's office is quite the mound right now, so they're just working through that, but they didn't want it to lapse right now, because that's what went through, so that's part of it. Chairman's report, nothing.
Do we need to receive those 3 items?
We've already got them.
We just did number A. Okay,
Right. It was just a motion on the first one.
all right, fine.
Moving on to the chairman's report, not a lot to report. The chief and Garth and I attended the virtual conference with the Ontario Association of Police Service Board, and the topic of that summer was labor relations, and there's lots of good information coming out of that meeting. So moving on, what I'll do is I'll turn it over to reports from Inspector Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll start with the Criminal Investigations Branch. Month of October, first item that you'll see there, both at this table and at council, we discussed the hotspot location that we've had issues with over a number of months. So 38-year-old male was arrested as part of a robbery investigation connected to that address, currently charged with robbery, assault with a weapon, forcible confinement, possession of methamphetamine for the purpose of trafficking, and several property offenses. He's been prohibited from attending the address, which has resulted in a somewhat decrease in complaints and issues at this point, although we are still focusing some attention on it. Also in October, we dealt with a historic familial sexual assault that actually took quite a bit of time for our CIB branch, as it related to a number of victims all coming forward for basically a number of offenses. It was complicated by the suspect living outside of the province. Canada-wide warrant was obtained, and we had to make arrangements for our members to basically attend to the province that he was located by air travel, and we had the assistant PRCMP in getting him arrested. So I brought back to Owen Sound, facing 16 child sexual offenses involving 5 victims. Currently remains in custody. October 25th, we dealt with a drug and firearms investigation at a local motel. Man was involved in a domestic dispute with his partner, barricaded himself inside the motel room. We were actually gearing up to advance that call potentially to the OPP. However, we were able to arrest him as he left the motel room in a taxi. Man is from Waterloo Region. We recovered a pellet rifle and basically charged by us with relation to the weapons offense. He also remains in custody. Break and enter at Bike Face, business located on 10th Street East. Lone male smashed the glass door, stole an electric mountain bike with a retail value over $4,000. We have video of the incident. The male was wearing a face covering, and that incident remains under investigation. The CIB branch also sits in uniform with fraud investigation regarding a number of unauthorized debit card purchases. Investigation revealed the victim's former spouse completed more than $5,000 worth of transactions on the victim's debit card over 2 months. Female has been charged with fraud on unauthorized use of credit card back and forth in December. We were down, body with Constable Houston. As you'll recall, this year we've been sending him through quite a number of courses connected to, technical investigations, technical surveillance. I think it'll total something close to about 8 weeks by the time all the modules are done. But once we get him up and running, and he's getting towards the end, that will provide us with a significant, resource that we don't currently have within the service, so we'll look forward to that. Although it happened in November, I'll throw out, just some, you'll hear about it again at next meeting, but, we've, no doubt saw the vandalism that we had to the churches and synagogue here in town. Again, that's another one of those great news stories here where a review of video with a couple of our high flyers downstairs, resulted in some really great work where the man was picked up and charged probably within 24 hours. Not somebody that was really well known to them, but based on walk and some clothing and that sort of thing, they picked up from a number of different video pieces through a lot of follow-up investigation, led to that identification and arrest. So we're really glad to see that, particularly given that we had the hate issues last year. We didn't want to see that flare up again, so luckily that one got nipped in the bud very quickly. Moving on to drug and intelligence, surveillance operation, middle of the month, resulted in the arrest of a domestic violence offender, served in the company of the victim, which was contrary to terms of release. He's been charged. Another known drug offender, breaching conditional sentence order out in the community, supposed to be confined with residence, out and about, the rest of them charged. Fentanyl trafficking investigation resulted in the arrest of a 44-year-old Toronto man, who's involved in the distribution of fentanyl in the Owen Sound area. Also had an arrest warrant from Toronto, found in possession of fentanyl, prohibited knife and cash at the time of his arrest, charged and remains in custody. Uniform members had laid charges back in July of 2020 on a Midland man released from custody on the charges. He was supposed to be residing with a surety in the city of Sarnia. Basically, at the end of the month, he was observed in the Owen Sound downtown core, arrested and charged, and the surety has been involved in trying to get themselves removed from the mail due to ongoing non-compliance. I will move on now to the auxiliary unit. You recall since COVID kicked in, we've had greatly restricted operations with the auxiliary. We're now starting to get back to some limited events, which is good. We've had the auxiliary out, you see there's a couple of pictures there. We've had them out with our community services officer, Special Counsel Franny. They were down at the Owen Sound Market for patrol, engaging with vendors and other market goers in early October. We still have the ride-alongs suspended, as do most other services because of COVID restrictions. End of the month, a number of the auxiliaries and myself and again Special Constable Franny, we participated in the Heritage Place Halloween drive-through. Extremely well attended, very much like the Santa Claus parade, to the point that I'm guessing there was probably 1,000 cars that went through. They were lined up waiting for an hour. So we spent the night there giving out candies and goodies and some educational material and also some coupons. So our 5 new auxiliary recruits, we really just need at this point to establish a graduation ceremony and get them sworn in, and they will be good to go. We have their documentation back from the ministry for approvals. We just need to do the final stage to get them up and running. So we're looking towards COVID-safe graduation ceremony of some sort. And they attended the meeting. So total hours for the auxiliary last month, what's not on the report, is 94.5. Subject to any questions, those are the reports.
Thank you, Inspector. Any questions for Inspector? Can you let us know when you're going to have that graduation? Is it going to be virtual or?
Yeah, the problem is it's a moving target, so any planning we do now for 20 people can change tomorrow or the day after. It likely will end up having to be a very subdued ceremony that's, obviously it's a big event for the members. They would like to have their families attend, so how do we manage that? And how do we plan it in advance, knowing that we can have X number today, but that may change. So it's been a bit of a moving target. Very likely will end up being some sort of a virtual small event held here, but broadcast, however we end up doing it. And we may have to look at better times, hopefully in the summer, to maybe do a better event that we can make up for it.
Thank you. Moving on to Inspector Sweeney.
Yeah, so, collision statistics for, October, we had 44 collisions, 18 on the east side, 15 on the west side, and 11 in parking lots, including 4 failed to remain collisions. 18 of those, were reported on by our collision reporting center, and 26 investigated by our officers. In comparison to last year, at the same time, we had 62 collisions. So what was going on at that time is the start of our detour route in the city with the 10th Street Bridge being out, and I'll touch on that in another report coming up. So going on to community services, and Inspector Bishop touched on a couple of the events. I'll just run over some highlights here. There was our CSO was very active on social media as far as traffic enforcement, things going on with traffic around schools, new frauds and scams, Halloween safety, substance abuse, and some of that is in partnership with public health. There was the golf tournament, of course, that was very successful, and funds were raised for the REACH program. Lock It or Lose It campaign occurred down at the market and also downtown Olmsted. They kind of moved from the market area and cover all the public parking lots up to Metro. They're putting tickets on each car, so there'd been some concerns before about putting the notices on only cars that had like parcels showing or were unlocked. People are saying that's flagging those vehicles. We're putting them on all vehicles, just letting people know to be aware to have their vehicle secured when they're in these commercial areas. Start of the rebrand of the Community Safety Village. We're going to revitalize it. There's some funds for that to make it look better for the schools. Our ongoing partnership with the Muslim Association and newcomer families to Owen Sound through the Alliance Church. Our community safety officer is going out and engaging these new families and making them understand that the police are here for them and that they shouldn't have any fear as far as approaching their local police service. The CSO also mentored a OSPSB high school student. We had them here with us assisting the CSO. There was presentations to school on sexual assaults to OSPSB grade 11 students. It's a presentation to Hillcrest and Eastridge on internet safety, and they also continued with the lockdown procedures and evaluating them with the schools. And there's a couple pictures there. One is the donation being made to the REACH program following the golf tournament, and also a partnership with CMHA and one of the visits that they did to the Alpha Street complex in the public engagement event. And I'll move on to lost hours and training. We had 12 members report sick in October, and that totaled 476 hours, and that was similar to last month. Now, 276 of the hours from this past month are due to non-work-related injuries of 2 of the members. We have 1 member that remains on WSIB. As far as training, it's been fairly limited due to the restrictions at the college. However, we are picking up some courses here and there for our members. The members went through their annual firearms requalification, and as Inspector Bishop had said before, we have 1 member on the technical investigators course, and they're coming to the end of their training on that. And moving on to traffic enforcement, during the month of October, there was 179 HTA charges between the full-time and part-time officers. Comparison to 2019, there was less, there was 144. Cautions in October 2020 were 89. Now, here's the other point. There was 210 cautions in 2019 in October, and that was due to a education campaign with all of our officers working with the public on the new detour route, and there was much education there and lots of warnings issued to motorists during that time. There's 140 criminal charges compared to 125 in October of last year, and 135 hours of foot patrol in comparison to 127 in October of 2019. 16 ride checks on duty, and there was 3 provincially funded ride programs during the month. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Inspector. Moving on to, the next item is report from Director of Civilian Services.
I'll be looking after Director Flynn. She's able to attend with court business.
Okay, thank you.
With respect to board bylaws, 3 taxi driver license renewals and 2 new taxi licenses, and that basically is all of the board bylaws, still reduced due to COVID. There is a note on there at the bottom that you see we had all entertainment at 0, that Smuggler's was closed during the month of October. Because we discussed a little bit earlier, it's reopened recently, but it's on a day-to-day basis based on the current COVID assessment for the area. That is the board bylaws. We'll next move to the courts. Only 1 custody transported during the month for OSPS. That's related to the new system at the courts where virtually everything is going by audio remand. 42 Owen Sound persons in custody appeared by audio over the month. We also only had to provide the 1 meal based on transports. 808 special constable hours worked through the month. Issues, comments, and concerns. 3 courtrooms, being Superior Court, Criminal Court, Family Court, remain the only courtrooms that are hearing matters in person. Prisoners are not transported to the courthouse at this time unless they are attending for their trial. All other prisoners are still being done by audio, video from police services or the correctional facilities. So we have been assigning special constables here to the station to cover the in-custody hearings that we hadn't been doing under the old system. And that is the courts. Records being the last report. Local criminal record searches are being completed, sent back to the individual within 1 to 2 weeks of submitting them. We've sent criminal records checks in person at the service as well as online, and there were a total of 4,793 bulk searches completed in October of 2020. That number is up, and I believe, Suzanne, that's related to a couple of extra people doing them, and likely we continue to see that number going up with the cell monitors starting to get up and running now as well.
Thank you.
Subject to any questions, we'll do Director Flynn's reports.
Moving on to Director of Corporate Services.
So calls for service in October of this year was 1,442. Compared to last year, they were 1,419. That was 1.5% increase. This year, the Monday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Last year in October, they were Monday to Friday. This year's time frames this year for October were 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. We had a slight spike at 1 a.m. And last year's busiest time frames were 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So it was consistent there. Our average response time from call entry to 2 for 2020 was 11:35. And in 2019, it was 14:54. And dispatch speaking was 5 minutes 20 seconds, and in 2019, it was 6 minutes per minute. And that's it for me. Any questions?
Just last month, there was the one report that showed the increases for calls for service, and it was sort of huge jump right between 2019 and 2020.
Yeah, the report that they're printing now, it's inaccurate in that it just captures up to March, so years to date is not accurate right now, so we have to fix that. But we have to do year to date if you want as well.
It's a good thing it's wrong, because the numbers were just incredibly high.
Yeah.
Now they're just moderately high.
Yeah, moderately high, exactly. All right, moving on. Thank you very much. I guess on to Director Hill.
For the month of October, we did a large amount of upgrades in the interview rooms, both in the front and the back of the building, for the soft interview and the 2 regular interview rooms, replacing some obsolete equipment with high definition units and kill switches. We installed some equipment for the cell monitors, for being able to view those 16 cells in the back, as well as complete administrative tasks. There was a requirement for installing a wireless network throughout the entire cell block area to accommodate the Justice Video Network, as well as Zoom for video bales. They're primarily held in one of the interview rooms, but they have the capability, in the event that we need to move that system, it can go into any of the cell pods as well. A large portion of the month was actually spent working on contracts and requests for proposals for dispatch, for renewals of services. Most of the contracts are completion in 2020, so we're renewing a vast number of those. Next Generation 911, we're actually nearing completion. Us and Sherbrooke in Quebec are completed some transfer tests just as actually yesterday. So we're targeting the approximately March for when CRTC and Bell Canada will actually enable that for us to the public. So we should have everything wrapped up ideally by the end of the year. We'll just be a waiting game until we're authorized to cut that over. And that's my report for October.
Thank you, Director Hill. Any questions? Okay, as there is no request for action, then any of the above reports will be placed on file with the minutes of this meeting for future reference. Moving on to item number 14, financial reports, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, financial report at the end of October 2020, you'll see is a low budget of 3.46% or about $268,000. Just to comment, there's a few things that need to be moved around. Capital assets, if you look at that, and the capital purchases, the variance is about $136,000. Some of that had to do with some information that came in and the financial person has placed it into the capital purchases, but there's some of them are service agreements and everything, so we haven't actually spent over our capital in those areas, and because a lot of that relates to IT infrastructure and things, Director Hill is sitting down with Don Plus to work that out and put that into the actual, so the numbers are all correct, they're just not distributed to the right area. So a lot of that will go to 3,100, 32, and 32, and 33. So the numbers are correct, but they're not reflected in the right area. But other than that, we're in a good position. Maybe variances are some variances that are report a little below, and that obviously is a result of the shutdown for COVID and not having the staff in there that we did. We always had staff because they never actually closed, but the quarters themselves were open, so it was a reduced staffing level. And as well as some of the officers having some unanticipated vacancies and people not at work, so that's where the variances come in for 2020. Subject to any questions for the October statement, there's a payment of accounts in the amount of $38,110 for approval.
Can I have a motion for that? Gary, thank you. Seconder? Garth, thank you. All in favor? Gary? Moving on to, sometime we'll talk about the forecast for 2020, briefly.
So forecast for 2020, really hasn't changed a lot since last month when it was presented and distributed to you. We're in the same position, the same area. Catch up here in a second. So, about 2.12% below, budget, $164,000 approximately for the end of the year. So, and, as I explained earlier, the departments that are below are the courts and and some of the wages. On the officer side, those are the vacancies that we have listed, people returning to position. Any questions about this in there? More accurate numbers as we get closer to the end of the year.
Yeah, of course. Do we have a motion to accept the 2020 forecast? Ian, thank you. Seconder? Joe? Okay. All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to item 16, budget 2021.
So, Mr. Chair, the 2021 budget, as you see before you, and it was discussed earlier, we're looking at approximately a 2.73% increase over last year. That includes the budgeting for 2 officers to get even more of a proactive state, more of a response call for service, and do the operating calls for service increases, criminal charge increases, overall increases to the demands on the officers, including demands for courts, as we've gone through and discussed everything of getting them to the police, and the police end up picking up the ball. So that's a two officer increase in order to get us into a better condition so the demands on our members aren't such that we're burning them out, and it allows us to do some proactive initiatives and not strictly just respond to calls for service. The rest of the budget basically remains status quo. One thing that I'll point out is it's 93.9% wages and benefits in the budget. So the operational continues to be more or less than 10%, which is very good on that side of things. So but those increases in officers, one would be for January hire in order to attend, or end of the year hires in order to attend police college in January, and the second would be, we have a process underway right now looking at hiring. And then the second would be in April of next year in order to facilitate attendance to police college.
Any questions from the board?
I should mention as well that I've met with the city manager and with the city financial people and people internally and our own finance, Don Flood, the city directors come up with this budget and those numbers, and work with the city manager and the city finance analysis in order to set up what I believe is a very good budget that comes in with what we need and an area where we were asked to be.
Right. Yeah, I think it covers off a lot of the areas that we're trying to get to, as opposed to get farther behind. Okay, any other questions of Craig on the 2021 budget proposal? No? Can I have a motion for the 2021 budget? Joe? Thank you. Seconder? Kurt? All right. All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to item number 17, operating reports from the Chief of Police. Okay.
So I should make mention that I will be attending city council presenting that draft budget at city council in December.
3rd or 4th or somewhere in there?
It's first week.
One of those 5 days.
The first week of December.
Okay.
I think 3rd and 4th are their 2 budget days.
So we'll be watching that night.
In the daytime. You can,
Oh, is it in the daytime?
but it will be televised, but you might not get it right if you want.
Thursday the 3rd and Friday the 4th, so it'll be one of those days.
Yeah, if you want to go, you can go to the, ancillary rooms outside the
Right.
council and view it on the screen.
Okay.
Activities report, and some vacation and holidays, and then, conference calls, with a number of people now with the Zoom calls, in relation to the pandemic, OSPSB Board of Directors meetings. We also have a number of fire dispatch meetings, contracts, and budget, and, a good portion of the month was spent doing budget preparation, both here and at the city. And, some preparation for a city council training session, homelessness meetings, and other things. So, if there's any questions, you might want to activities. And then we have a report to the board on, purchasing, purchasing risk and asset management for the city. A request for proposal was put out for vehicle repairs and oil changes. And, the recommendation is the food services board award that RFP 20-032 for police vehicle repairs and oil changes to variable rates, considered price of $44,350, not including taxes for a 2-year term, as a result of the, bids that were received.
Any questions on the report? Okay. Call for motion to approve the acceptance. Garth, Marion? Great, thank you. All in favor? All in favor? Okay. Moving on to number 18, police report on crime stats.
So there was a delay in, Statistics Canada publishing crime statistics. They were supposed to go in September, and we're looking for some clarification on some numbers. They were eventually published on October the 29th, and, some highlights from that in the report. Obviously, since 1962, Stats Canada collects the information on all criminal incidents reported by police services through the Uniform Crime Reporting Survey. Allows for comparison on police reported crime across geographies over time. Crime counts are based on the most serious violations in a criminal incident, primary UCR code, and the report provides an analysis of the key statistical trends reported by police in 2019. For all of this being down, all measures of the crime severity index, violent crime, crime severity, and clearance rate, non-violent crime, all increased in 2019. Some of the overall significant increases in 2019 across the country related to sexual assaults, as well as an increase in rates of child pornography, violence offenses related to firearms, and non-violent weapons offenses, harassment, threatening behaviors. Certainly, the increase in sexual assaults can be attributed to the Uniform Crime Reporting Survey in 2018-19, where they examined the definition of founded and unfounded, and as a result, those seem to increase, but we expect to increase. The number of unfounded incidents continues to decline, 14% in 2007 and 10% in 2019. Police reported crime increased for the 5th consecutive year, but increased 5% overall in Canada, and it was 9%, but it was still interesting that 9% lower in 2019 than earlier in 2009. There were over 2.2 million reported criminal code incidents, including traffic, reported in 2019, and that's about 164,700 more than 2018. So, basically, when you go down to the Owen Sound data, there's a number of other indicators that changes. Violent crime and non-violent crime continue to rise. If you compare Owen Sound from 2018 to 2019, our annual incidents increased, our race of population increased. So all of that, the numbers for all violations increased about 19 almost 20%, 19.96%. When you get down to violent crime, the percentage increase was 14%, and the violent crime index here continues to rise. overall crime severity went from, 95.25 in 2018 to 109.34 in 2019. That would move us up. I didn't have a chance to get the 2019 crime statistics, but for 2018, that would have put us about fifth overall in the province. Overall crime severity. If you look at violent crime, for 2019, it would have put us up as both fifth or sixth again. And if you look at nonviolent crime, it would put us in the area of eighth in the province. So our clearance rates would have been about somewhere 16 or 17 somewhere in the province. So compared to last year's rate. So everything continues to rise, and although there is a skew in the numbers, if you're looking at population density, it's certainly a small variance in the small cities. There's a bigger increase in the larger than the metropolitan area. So compared to other cities, we're still climbing again close to the top. An indication on the workload and on the all types that we deal with.
Any questions on the chief's report?
I just have a comment. I think maybe the date at the top of the report is off.
Yeah, probably.
Dated before the statistics were released.
In anticipation.
Sorry, that should be November.
I checked the rest of the report for you, Kurt. I didn't check the date.
I actually did have the data early. But no, the report was completed November 20th.
Can that be corrected before this goes to council?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, the other thing I also included, if there's no more questions, we'll move on to item B. I also included a crime severity index that Craig had put together, so where we are on the listing, and also the crime severity index ranking on municipalities over 10,000 attached, and I resorted it for you just so you can see that one sounds right at the top, but if you want to resort it to ascending or descending, it's entirely up to you. Any questions on those reports that were also sent for information? Okay, moving on to number 19, other items of new business. At the beginning of the meeting, we added one new item to the agenda, and we had an application from Michael E. Fuller for a private transportation company operating out of the township of Georgian Bluff, with the majority of its business being located within the city of Owen Sound. Mr. Fuller currently has a contract with OSPSB effective November 30th to provide transportation for the clients to appointments within the city of Owen Sound. Mr. Fuller will be using his own vehicle for this business, and he's in the process or has completed all of the background checks that are required for this license application, and nothing has come out derogatory. Ian?
I noticed that, I thought the application had Beatty Street.
It looks like the applicant's address is different than the business address.
Okay, there we go.
But they're still very close. You're up in the southwest area of town, and the two locations are fairly close to each other, one being in the township and one being in the city.
These normally come to the board for approval.
That's the process, not normally. We haven't had one, and not since I've been here.
The drive safe came last year.
Yeah, driver's seat.
Driver's seat.
Sorry.
Right. The only question I had was, back when we were doing the bylaw for the taxi bylaw, or the driver for hire bylaw, and the city was updating theirs, there was some talk about that the city required a business license with the city of Mount Sinai, even though the business was actually located outside. Was that resolved, or I can't remember.
It didn't require city license if the business was outside coming into the work, the bylaws to do it, right? So,
Right.
the
Okay, so that's all been resolved, so there's nothing left. Okay, that's fine. All right.
There's a 2020 occurrence summary. I'm not really following what that is. Looks like a,
Sorry to what's that?
there's a like an occurrence summary attached. Looks like a
Right.
public inquiry or something.
It was redacted, yes.
Yes.
I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, there was nothing in that redacted section that would preclude him from applying for the license.
No, that material shouldn't be in the package, anything that gets distributed to the public.
No, well, this is the redacted version only.
It still has the name of the victim.
Yes, we should, yeah, that.
Oh, okay. It was, under the heading of redacted version to the board, so that's my mistake. I will take that out then for the,
Because I don't see anywhere his business address.
Under the, I think on the first page, or the second page after the first one. That would be North Direction Plus.
Okay. Fourth Avenue North. 187 Fourth Ave West, George and Bliss. Where the heck's that?
So your lane just,
South.
oh, southwest.
Gotta be, because that would be then across the street from the cemetery.
St. Mary's Cemetery?
No, our cemetery, Greenwood, North Avenue West, down past Greenwood, past Rock
Oh,
Cliff.
where Brent lives.
Yeah, I think he's down
Okay.
there somewhere. It's gotta be. In your backyard.
Yeah.
So if I'm to ask staff for some guidance, what would we normally do in this situation, and what do you recommend?
There'd be no reason not to, license it if there are no flags and no concerns, no issues moving forward.
So, move that we approve that then?
I'll
Second.
second it.
Mary? Okay. All in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, moving along, as there's no other new business to be, discussed, I'll declare the meeting terminated. Thank you, everyone, appreciate it. Thanks, everyone on the line.
Yep, thank you.